Hey everyone, today we're going to create this Fortnite Death effect animation in Blender. Someone asked me in the comment about this if I can do a tutorial. I created kind of my own version of it, but it turned out really fun. It's quite easy to do with geometry nodes. Just follow step by step and you will achieve the same effect. So let's get started. So what we have in here is our character that we want to apply this effect. You can do this with whatever character or object you want. Just click on the character or object, go into the geometry node editor and create some new geometry nodes. First of all, we want to distribute some points. Distribute points on faces and plug this in between here. This will just distribute some random points on our character. After that, we want to add in a join geometry node. This we can plug in here and just the input plug also into the join geometry so we can actually see our character again and also the points we distribute on the character. Alright, what we want to do now is add in a cube because we want to spawn cubes on the object. Let's scale it down a little bit, press Ctrl A and apply the scale. Always if you scale it down, just press Ctrl A to apply some scale. In edit mode, press Ctrl B to add some bevel, scroll your mouse wheel to make it a little bit rounder, something like this is fine. Right click, shade smooth, and this is good for now. Select our object again, and then we will do one more thing, and this is called instance on points, and plug this in between the distribute points and after that. And in here we want to instance this cube on our object. Therefore we will have to bring in the cube in here, and we can do this with an object info node, this one right here. With the eyedropper tool, select the cube you want and put the geometry into the instance section, and as you can already see, we have the cubes on our object. Let's make the cube even smaller, something around here. Press Ctrl A and apply the scale. So we have some nice cubes. Later, we will also change some random scale and random rotation. We can even do the rotation already now. So type in random rotation and plug this one into the rotation right here. And we already have some random rotation. For the random scale, we will also check this out later. But first, we want to do the growing effect, so that cubes grow onto the object. Therefore, we will have to add in a second object, which is a plane. Let me hide this one right now. And this plane right here, we will go into the object settings and under under viewport display, change it from textured to wire so we can actually see through the plane. This plane we just need as a direction where the points should spawn. So select our object again, and now comes the fun part. First we have to bring in our object, so let's go object info node again, and with the eyedropper tool select the plane we just have created, set it to relative, and we also need a position node. This will get the position of our character. And now what we want to do is, depending on the z-axis of this plane, points should spawn or should not spawn. So we have to get the z-axis, so the up and down axis of this plane. Therefore, we will have to grab the location and search for a separate XYZ node, this one right here. And then we will use the Z node right here. We have to do the exact same for the position of our character, this one right here. And these two we will plug into a less than math node, because depending on where this is, if it's less than this position, points should spawn. If it's higher, no points should spawn. So we connect this like this. We plug the plane value in the lower thing and the separate value of the position in the upper value, and plug this one into the selection of the distribute points on faces node and change it from random to Poisson disk. So we can also change the density. And I did a little mistake. We don't have to use this less than node right here. I will delete this again. We have to use a compare node, this one right here. Change it to vector and choose less than. And same as before, plug in the set value in the lower thing and the set value of this in the upper thing. And this then we can plug into the selection. And as we can already see, if we move the plane up and down, points spawn exactly where the location of this plane is. Already great. We can also increase the density to see a little bit more points spawning on the surface. And already this is such a funny and nice effect. You can use this also for other projects. It's quite a nice effect. All right, what we want to achieve now is that points will fly off after a certain moment. So they first spawn on the object, and at a certain point, they should also fly away and get smaller. Therefore, we have to add in a second plane. We can just duplicate this one and move it down a tiny bit. Let's do it like this. We can also call this the fly off plane, and the other plane the grow plane. So we have a little bit more overview. And that they move together, we can add in a simple empty and put it in between those two. And then just select the first plane, shift select the second plane, and then the empty. Press Ctrl P to parent them and choose object keep transform. And now if we move our empty, both of these planes move simultaneously. Back on our object, we have to add in an object info node to bring in our second plane. With the eyedropper tool, also select the fly off plane and choose relative. Same as before, we want our separate XYZ location, our set location after that. But this time we want to subtract. So choose the math subtract node, this one right here, plug the set value in here, and the set value of our object. So this one right here, and plug it in this one. And then it's a little complicated. We have to use a map range node to control how they fly off. We will plug in the value into the value right here. Add in a set position node because we want to change the position, and plug it in between the instance point and the set position, this one right here. So we have control over the Z position, and we want the offset. So we need a combine XYZ node, plug this one into the set and this one into the offset of the set position. Yeah, I know it's a little complicated, but what it actually means, it just again compares the set position of the plane corresponding to our object, and if it goes higher than a certain level, the points will fly off. And the flying off effect in the set direction we can control with the map range, and if we increase the lowest value right here, we can see the points fly up even higher or less high. And we already have, if we move our empty, this nice of an effect. So cubes spawn on the object and then they will fly off. Maybe they fly off a little too fast, so we can just move this plane a little down, something like this, so we have a bigger gap in between the two planes. All right. One thing that is happening now is that they just fly up and don't disappear. To make them also disappear and smaller, we have to add in one little more thing, but that's not so hard. We can just take the output of the subtract, this one right here, and also add in a map range node. Map range node, this one right here. We need to do this before the instance on point, and now, as I said before, we can now control the scale, but we want to also have some random scale, so we take a random value node, and we will also do a math node right here because we want to connect these two together and plug this into the scale, and instead of add we change it to multiply. And now it's kind of the wrong way around. They get bigger instead of smaller, And to change this, we have to change this value right here. And we have to change this one to 0 and this one to a minus value. And to be honest, at this point, it's just a little playing around. It's not a minus value this time. Last time I did it, it was a minus value. I don't know why. Just play around with this value a little bit until you find that they get smaller if they fly up. And at some point, they should all disappear into nothing. Yeah, let me see if I can find a good value. Maybe something like 0.4 is good for me. So they just fly up and get small and disappear. And as you can see, we already have this nice looking effect. What we can do now is select our cube, go into the shader editor, add in a new shader, change this to a bluish value, decrease the roughness, increase the metallic value, and under emission also increase this maybe to 0.5, bluish tone. So we have some bluish kind of cubes that fly off, which is really nice looking. And the last thing we want to do is that the model actually disappears. Therefore, we have to select the model again and go into the shader editor. And it doesn't matter right now. I already prepared this. It doesn't matter right now what texture your object already had. It doesn't matter. We can just group them together. And after that, we will add in a mix shader node and connect this with a transparent BSDF node, so it gets transparent after some time. And this we want to control with a gradient and a mapping and texture node. The gradient node, if we look at it, just gives us this black and white gradient. And if the model is black, the model disappears, so it gets transparent. And if the gradient is white like this, the model is here. So if I look at it all together and play around with the X value location, it disappears or not. And you can keyframe this X value so it synchronizes with the empty right here. So if I would animate this, I go to 0 and put the empty right down here. Let's press I on the keyboard, and after a certain time, the empty should be all the way up here. So they all should disappear. Something like this is good. I press I again. So we already have this nice looking flying off effect with the cubes. And now select our object and go into the shader editor node and go to 1 so we can see the whole object, and press I on the keyboard. Let's also add in a timeline right here. I'm at the wrong position, so go to frame 0 or 1 and put the keyframe to 1. And then look where your empty flies. And I think at this location right here, the model should already be gone. So I will change the location to -1 and press I again on the keyboard. And then you are done. You already have this nice effect. Look at it. You can see the model disappears and the cubes get spawned. And you have this nice looking effect. You can still change in the geometry nodes many different things, such as density. If you want more cubes, just add more density right here. You can also choose different variation, different seed. And after that, you have a nice looking cube disappearing Fortnite Death effect. You can also use this for any other kind of effect, and I hope you could learn also a little bit something about geometry nodes. If this was helpful, I would love to have a like on the video, and maybe you can subscribe. And if you have any other questions, just write them in the comments. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Peace out.